Today is Friday, May 28th. Welcome to this edition of Nevada County Now. Today's episode, we're talking Memorial Day, Memorial Park, AB 925, and more. Hello and welcome to Nevada County Now. I'm your host, Cole Pettit. Monday is Memorial Day, a time to show our respect for those service members who have sacrificed everything so that we might have the freedoms and opportunities that can so often be taken for granted. I spoke with Claude Hessel, commander of the American Legion Frank Galeno Post 130, to find out what this year's services will look like.
We're having a program from 11 to 12 in Grass Valley Memorial Park. It'll be in front of the memorial monuments there. And we're going to start out with, I'll make some opening remarks, and then we're going to have a presentation of colors. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance and a regular program, National Anthem by Donna Matson. She does a very good job at that. And then my wife, Janet Hessel, who's the chaplain of the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 130, will give the invocation. And then we'll actually start into the wreath laying ceremony. There'll probably be about a dozen veterans and veteran support groups participating in that. And then my speakers on Monday will be Dan Miller, who is the chair of the Nevada County Supervisors. Mm-hmm. And he's also a veteran, an Army veteran. Yeah, he had 32 years of public service on top of that. Yeah, he was a combat Army medic from 68 to 70. And then Orlo Steele, Major General, United States Marine Corps, who had commanded in 1987 to 1989. He was CO of the 2nd Marine Division. He'll be the main speaker. And then following that, we'll have God Bless America, sung by Barbara Connor and Terry Allwayne. They call themselves In Harmony, and they do a fantastic job. And actually before that, during the wreath laying, at the beginning of the wreath laying ceremony, they'll be singing If You're Reading This. Very good patriotic song. And then following that, we're going to have muster. Donna Matson will be singing all the service songs a cappella. She's done this for years. Fantastic job. And as she sings a service song, those service members, veterans, come up and muster in front of the memorials. And then we'll finish the program off with all Veterans Honor Guard, Nevada County will do a 3-gun volley, followed by taps, and then followed by Lester Milroy doing Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. That'll conclude the program. There'll be a lot of tears. There'll be a lot of emotion. This is a very sacred day. It's not like Veterans Day. Veterans Day, we honor all the veterans, that came before, that are serving now on active duty, et cetera. Memorial Day is all about the veterans that gave their all for their country. So that's what we're doing in person, which is way better than doing it virtually. Yeah, if you'd like to donate to the American Legion Frank Galeno Post 130, P.O. Box 1113, Grass Valley, California, 95945. And all our money goes in support of veterans one way or another. Or the other way is to support us is as we open up our monthly dinners, our dances, etc. Come on out and enjoy yourself and participate and have fun.
Thanks, Claude. As Claude mentioned, the event will take place in Memorial Park in Grass Valley, and there was some more news concerning Memorial Park this week. At Tuesday night's Grass Valley City Council meeting, the council voted to approve a project recommended by the Historical Commission for the Memorial Park Centennial Courtyard. Let's take a look.
The Historical Commission was looking at some options for some ways of maintaining the history for Memorial Park. They started looking at a project to add signs around the park to just make sure the history of the park could be maintained for the future. That then looked into, could you go to the next slide? That then looked into some other options with the centennial of the park coming up this year, and the idea of maybe putting some historical signs on the park, about the park, and kind of tie that into the centennial event of the park. So with that, they, in conjunction with staff, looked at a couple different options, and they looked at the clock tower that is shown in the picture there on the right. That is a memorial tower, and I won't go into that in a lot of the details because Linda Jack, our chair of the committee, will go into further details on that and discuss a little more of the history. But they looked at that as maybe making that more of a focal point of the park rather than just a element that's kind of floating there in space on the grass. If you look to the left, it kind of shows the new basketball court, the new pickleball courts that have been approved, and the project has been awarded. And with any luck, within a couple of weeks, construction will start making those improvements throughout the park. The clock tower is shown there. If you go to the next slide, we can show the next concept as they kind of got developed. They developed two other concepts, one with the sidewalk that kind of meandered through the park, and another one with a more focused garden around the clock memorial, and putting some benches and a kind of a kiosk kind of structure there.
On November 11th of 1921, about 2,500 people from Grass Valley gathered at the park. Originally, it had been conceived as a park to attract automobile tourists, this new phenomena. And Nevada City had an auto park already, so Grass Valley was anxious to step in. But very quickly, it was realized that following so close on World War I, that the park could be many things, and one of those would be a memorial to Grass Valley's World War dead. So the park ended up having three kind of aspects to it: to memorialize the war dead, to provide facilities for recreation and community for our own citizens, but also to attract these new automobile tourists. So our Centennial Courtyard, as we're calling it, is envisioned to do three things. One is to communicate to the public what the foundational purposes of the park were, these three things we spoke about. And through panels of text and images, we want to tell the remarkable story of how this was a community grassroots effort. Without city or tax money, people just came together in 11 months and built this park. And that seems to be the story to me, to our commission, that sort of trumps the individual parts of the park. So recognizing the tennis courts or the baseball park or section or whatever is important, but how it got built seems to us the more important story.
I think it's important for all of us, you know, the people, especially the people who haven't lived here and weren't born here and their families weren't here, to understand the, you know, the history and how Memorial Park came to be, you know, basically because the community wanted it.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's just amazing what they've had in that park, and it's changed dramatically throughout the years. And
in other political news, our Assemblywoman Megan Dolly has introduced a bill, AB 925, with the goal of helping to promote women's health and safety. Our political correspondent, MaryJane Huenergardt, is here to tell us more.
Hello, Nevada County. If I were more organized about the format of this little segment I do, I'd include a regular bit called Caucus Talk. Maybe this can be my first Caucus Talk, actually. Welcome to the first edition of Caucus Talk. Caucuses are cool. Groups of legislators formally associate around specific areas of issues in which they all have interest. It's a great way for marginalized groups to keep their voices in the big discussions. There are 17 official caucuses in California, representing areas like civil rights, rural interests, mental health, tech and innovation, the environment, and, I kid you not, aviation, as well as outdoor sporting. Then each of these caucuses has a list of ideals, kind of like party platform planks, but more specific, that it references in selecting legislation to support. The California Legislative Women's Caucus promotes the ideals of women's economic security, sexual assault and domestic violence prevention, the fair treatment of women in prison, women's health and safety, women in the military and military families, women in corporate leadership, women in the media, and women in politics. In March, this caucus released the package of bills that they have selected to support for this year's session, and guess what? The caucus's package includes a bill introduced by our very own Assemblywoman, Megan Dahle, as a public priority to help, a policy priority to help promote women's health and safety. This bill is AB 925. The original bill summary from its initial introduction in February reads, quote, AB 925 will increase the availability and affordability of acute adult and adolescent sexual assault, medical, forensic, evidentiary examinations for victims of sexual assault. The bill will allocate $6.7 million annually from the general fund to the California Office of Emergency Services, or Cal-OES, for the purpose of providing full reimbursement to providers that perform these exams. Thanks to AB 538, passed in 2019, victims cannot be charged for any portion of a sexual assault forensic medical exam, whether they choose to press charges. So this bill isn't to prevent victims from being sent a bill for what amounts to the collection of a vital piece of evidence in a criminal investigation or potential investigation. However, existing funding streams for reimbursing the clinic are subject to locally negotiated reimbursement rates with Cal-OES, which vary by county. In rural counties, which Dahle represents, clinics that are qualified to perform this very specific forensic exam are scarce, perhaps because the cost of offering this service outweighs the reimbursement. According to data provided by the California Clinical Forensic Medical Training Center, the estimated total reimbursement for adult sexual assault exams in 2019 was $7,120,388. The entire estimated cost incurred by providers of the exams was $13,760,900 per year. And that's not a complete number because it doesn't count those who would get service if it were more readily available. Nevertheless, in crafting the bill, Dahle's team used the calculated shortfall of $6,640,512, which is where that $6.7 million figure came into play. So, like I said, this bill isn't really for the victims, at least not directly, but it will directly affect them. The hope is that more will have access to exams. Because of the scarcity of the clinics in rural areas, sexual assault victims often need to travel for hours, and then sometimes they even need to wait once they get there, all while wearing the clothes that they wore during the assault. By ensuring that the costs are fully reimbursed, the idea is that more providers will offer the forensic sexual assault exam and increase their availability so that victims will have somewhere close by to go and be seen right away. So here's where legislation heads can geek out on the journey of a bill from birth to law. On March 4th, the bill was amended so that that specific $6.7 million allocation from the general fund to Cal-OES was removed and replaced with Cal-OES's traditional funding stream for the exam reimbursements, the federal Stop Violence Against Women formula grant program. On April 13th, the amended version of AB 925, Dahle's bill, cleared the Public Safety Committee. On April 28th, it had its day in the Appropriations Committee, which looks at how we'll pay for the bill or appropriate money to it. The Stop Violence Against Women Formula Grant Program also funds multiple other victim assistance programs, and the Appropriation Committee observed that requiring OES to reimburse local law enforcement for all sexual evidence kits may result in substantial cuts to other programs without additional state or federal funds. So there might need to be some sort of allocation from the general fund or adjustment of the formula grant, maybe? It remains to be seen where the bill goes from here. I'll leave you with the California Legislative Women's Caucus's official words in support of AB 925. Given the increasing demand for these exams as sexual violence is on the rise, it is imperative that the state provide committed funding to fully reimburse qualified healthcare professionals for providing these exams. This will help clinics that provide this service to pencil out the costs of providing the exams and incentivize more clinics and providers to offer this important service. To follow the progress of AB 925 as it makes its way through the committees, visit leginfo.legislature.ca.gov and enter AB 925 in the quick search field. For more information on the California Legislative Women's Caucus, check out their Facebook page, which is regularly updated. It has been my privilege to bring you a brief piece on a local political issue. Email me at ncnpolitics@gmail.com to comment on this piece or suggest a topic for a future segment. See you again in 2 weeks here, same time, same place. And remember, when it comes to politics, if you're not at the table, you might be on the menu. Thanks for staying informed, Nevada County.
Thanks, MaryJane. We've seen an increase of 30 COVID-19 cases since last week, bringing our total to 4,807 confirmed cases. 134 cases are currently active with 2 hospitalizations, and the death toll remains at 75. According to the state's data, our adjusted case rate dropped again to 4.8, and our test positivity rate dropped as well to 2.4%. We continue to stay in the red tier, but should we achieve similar numbers next week, we'll likely move to the orange tier. For more on the current COVID situation and vaccines, let's welcome Taylor Wolfe, Public Information Officer for the County of Nevada.
All right, for our COVID update this week, we do have some good news. On Tuesday, we received news from the state that we did meet the criteria for the orange tier, which is a little bit less restrictive than our red tier that we have been in for several months. This is really good news because it means we're having less transmission of COVID-19 in our community. We have been seeing our case rates go down. We're seeing around 5 daily average cases, more or less. And of course, looking ahead, we know that the state's blueprint for a safer economy, otherwise known as their tier system, is going away in just a couple of weeks on June 15th. So looking at being able to move towards a less restrictive orange tier is really great news, as we know the tier system will go away altogether here in a few weeks. Of course, this is just the first week that we've hit this orange tier criteria, so if we're able to meet it again next week, we will officially move into that orange tier as early as June 2nd. And what this means for our local businesses is restaurants can go from 25 to 50% indoor capacity, gyms from 10 to 25% indoor capacity, movie theaters from 25 to 50% capacity, and much other lessened restrictions and increased indoor capacities for our local businesses. The big news, as we've been talking about for the last 6 months or so, is vaccines. To this week, we surpassed 40% of our total population who's eligible to be vaccinated. So that is currently 12 plus with that Pfizer vaccine. So 40% of our total Nevada County population has been vaccinated. So that is really good news. And I do want to give a shout out to our Nevada County public health nurses. Doing the math, we have upwards of 85,000 vaccines that have been administered to Nevada County residents. And over 25% of that have been administered by our public health team. And that's over 20,000 vaccines compared to previous pre-pandemic years where we usually administer about 1,200, 1,500 vaccines, typically flu shots, in 1 year. The state yesterday, the state of California, announced new incentives for their vaccine program, especially looking ahead to reopening the economy on that June 15th date. This includes $1.5 million in cash prizes for 10 vaccinated Californians. Up until that June 15th date, they're doing $50,000 Fridays in cash prizes for 30 vaccinated Californians. And for the next 2 million Californians that get vaccinated, they will be giving $50 gift cards. So really encouraging people until we reopen, get rid of that tier system on June 15th to really consider going and getting vaccinated. And of course, those first two, that 1.5 million for 10 Californians and 50,000 Fridays for 30 vaccinated Californians, that includes everyone who's already been vaccinated so far. So if you have been vaccinated, you will be a part of that pot and maybe selected. On that note, there's plenty of opportunities to get vaccinated. We have a lot of pop-up clinics, either that our Nevada County Public Health Reach team are going out and doing for the community, or other clinics are conducting, like Western Sierra Medical Clinic is doing several pop-up clinics in the Grass Valley area. The next one is this Saturday, June 5th. At Western Sierra Medical Clinic off Old Tunnel Road in Grass Valley from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is a Pfizer clinic, so it accepts those that are 12 plus. If you are a minor, be sure to bring that legal parent or guardian along with you to get your vaccine. And there are many pop-up clinics coming up that offer both the Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson vaccines, so we can vaccinate people who are 12 plus, or if people have a preference just for the one-shot Johnson & Johnson, that's a possibility as well. All these clinics are in MyTurn at myturn.ca.gov, or people can go ahead and call to schedule an appointment as well, and that toll-free number is 1-833-422-4255. People can also request in-home vaccine appointments or transit assistance if needed as well. So really great information. The MyTurn system seems to be working exceptionally well, and there's a lot of opportunities to get vaccinated if people are ready and want to be a part of the new cash incentives that the state announced. There's still a lot of business support programs out there in the community as well. This Wednesday, we have our business task force meeting. It's Wednesday afternoons, the first Wednesday of the month. Information is up on our mynevadacounty.com/coronavirus/businesses website if you want more information. But for this next meeting, we're really focusing in on that June 15th guidance and what it truly means for businesses. And really it focuses on what those mega events might look like. So that is 5,000 people indoors or up to 10,000 people outdoors, where there is some guidance after that June 15th date. And then of course there's the masking guidance, which on June 15th, California will align with the CDC, really to say that unvaccinated individuals should continue to wear their masks in most places, whereas vaccinated individuals can take off their masks in most places, including indoors and crowded outdoor settings. So a lot to look forward to on June 15th, but we definitely encourage people to get vaccinated as soon as possible so they can look forward to taking off that mask and being safe from COVID-19.
Thanks, Taylor. At this week's Q&A with public health officials, they touched on the huge amount of work done by the whole public health team to administer this volume of vaccine to the community and what the future may look like if our current vaccination levels hold.
This is another place where I'm going to give a shout out to our nurses. They are tackling difficult populations. They are doing a lot of the outreach. They're doing a lot of the contact. They're just an amazing group of people. I can't emphasize that enough. So the state is conducting outreach, as are we. We want to make sure that older adults as well as younger folks who are homebound know that there are resources for them, that we can vaccinate them. Also, any of the older adults who have transportation issues, transportation can be arranged for them. So we're working again with our PIO team and through our nurses and other community partners to make sure that people have that information, that both those services can be arranged through the MyTurn service, either via the website or via the toll-free number. Our REACH team, that is our team of nurses that is meeting people where they are. again, they're doing such a wonderful job. They're doing outreach, trying to identify those pockets of population that are under-vaccinated. So they have plans to hold clinics in under-vaccinated zip codes in the county. And they're still vaccinating in mobile home parks and other locations. And just a few minutes before this call, I got another request for the REACH team to visit a mobile home park where they'll be able to vaccinate entire families who live in the mobile home park. And that's one of the wonderful things about the Pfizer being available and to younger folks as well, the 12 to 15-year-olds now, that they can go in and in some cases vaccinate an entire household.
And it may just be like a flu booster that people get on a periodic basis. But my guess is, from India and Brazil and even south of the border in Mexico, they got these viruses replicating, and we'll probably see more variants come up our way. We've already seen a few in the county. And if we don't reach herd immunity, then you're right, Claudio. It'll be suppressed, controlled, but it will not be a thing of the past. We'll just have to live with, this coronavirus. But, there's a lot of coronaviruses out there. It's fairly ubiquitous. A lot of the pneumonias get admitted to the hospital and upper respiratory infections of varieties of coronaviruses. This one just happens to be a more virulent variety, more contagious. So I think unless we reach herd immunity, it's going to be something we have to live with. Hopefully we don't have to die with it, but I think we can live with it and maintain levels of immunization, at least keeps it at bay. The question is will you have that mask on next year? And you might, if you go into a closed environment and, we get a little bump in the levels, you may feel more comfortable wearing a mask. So mask may not be the thing of the past.
So we really want to see what happens in the fall because our numbers may go down now, and that's wonderful. And we need to take advantage of that to vaccinate as many people as we can. And hopefully we won't see an increase of cases in the fall. If we do, that is a huge problem. So we still have another 6 months to go before we know whether this is something we can live with or if it's something that a lot of us will die with. So we're not over. It's not over yet. We certainly celebrate the fact that we'll be able to open up our economy, and come June 15, people will feel, I'm sure, freer, and that will be great. But really, the proof will be in the fall and winter, whether or not we see an increase.
An excessive heat watch is in effect for the valley foothills and portions of the Delta Sunday through Tuesday. High temperatures will soar into the upper 90s and near 108 degrees. Make sure you drink plenty of water, avoid strenuous physical outdoor activity between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., pay special attention to such sensitive groups such as the elderly and young children, and plan to be in an air-conditioned setting if possible. In honor of Memorial Day, we'll leave you this evening with a montage of some of the ways our local veterans have been celebrated, featuring some words from Commander Claude Hessel. And remember, stay safe, take care of each other. We'll see you next week.
We come not to mourn our dead soldiers, but to praise them. Words of Civil War Union Army officer Francis A. Walker. That is why we are gathered here today, to praise our dead soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. As we look around this park, we see memorials to fallen heroes, World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And on these walls in front of you are the names of veterans spanning the Spanish-American War to the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan, including one Vietnam veteran who proudly wears the Medal of Honor. Today, through the words of our speakers, you will hear just what Memorial Day means to them, heroes who, in the words of President Abraham Lincoln, gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain.